Hey guys, we need to talk about why Deadlock is so frustrating for some people right now. This video will not be very edited because I just want to have a conversation with you guys about Deadlock and its current issues and why certain people aren't having fun, and also matchmaking and, you know, winning more, improving, all that stuff. As you guys know, this channel is dedicated to, you know, Deadlock education, getting better at the game, but it's also really important to me to kind of spread awareness and positivity through the community. And the first thing I want to address is, obviously, matchmaking sucks right now, right? And to be honest, matchmaking hasn't been good in a long time, but and part of it is Valve's fault, a decent part for sure, and another part of it is kind of like our expectations of the game. And there's a lot of different issues with that. On one, you know, people are treating the game as if it's a released game, and to be honest, you know, Valve aren't really helping in that part, where as Valve is kind of also treating the game in a way as it's a release game, right, where it's not really doing a whole lot of playtest things with the game itself. But regardless of all of that, you know, with the whole rank system kind of like decaying a bunch of people to initiate one and not really properly displaying ranks, and I've seen people that have won a decent amount but haven't ranked up at all. There's smurfs, there's new players, and there's players of higher skill that just decayed all the way to the low ranks, making the low rank games kind of just like very random at the moment. And a lot of people come into my chat and they ask, how can I win more games? How can I improve? How do I, you know, win more? That's really the number one question I get, is like, how do I win more? What do I do in this situation to win these games? And my number one advice, and I was talking about this on stream yesterday, what I want to get across is wanting to win games is causing you to actually, first of all, lose more, but also second of all, have less fun with the game. Now, let me elaborate a bit. When people say they want to win more, everybody is chasing, you know, short-term results, and, you know, people love winning, right? I mean, it's a game. You want to win at the end of the day. But the problem with having the winning mindset is that you are kind of setting yourself up for failure, especially when you're solo queuing and playing in a team game. What I mean by that is, if your sole goal when you start queuing and you press play is to win, well, there's a pretty good chance, in fact, over 50, probably 50% chance that you're going to lose and you're going to be disappointed, right? And, you know, that's just not going to lead to a very conducive and fun playing session. And when you combine that with matchmaking, a bunch of returning players, ranks being all over the place, balance sometimes being all over the place, although I think balance is in a pretty good spot right now, just to be clear. You know, you kind of just result in a lot of frustrations and people that are complaining to be about matchmaking, terrible teammates, all these things. And obviously some of these things have truth to them. But what I want to get across is, I think that there's a better way to do things. And I think it's important for us to kind of like try to just have fun with the game. And the way to have fun with the game, in my opinion, is to care a little bit less about winning. But a lot of people like myself are extremely competitive, right? So I'm a very competitive person, so naturally I want to win. I need an objective, right? So if you're one of those people that can just goof around, play fun builds, and do whatever you want, then that's fantastic. Maybe you don't need this video. But if you're like me and you're competitive and you can't help yourself from wanting to win, what you need is you need another objective, right? And so I'm going to tell you some of these objectives, or ways that I kind of have helped me mitigate this frustration, as well as, you know, mitigate some of that feeling of like, oh man, I lost. And I'm gonna break it down for you, and hopefully it helps you guys. And also I want to talk about some of the issues a little bit more in depth that Deadlock is having. The first thing, when it comes to kind of like mitigating the feeling of loss, is just setting yourself a goal for the night. Like, let's say that you're playing, or even the week or something. Let's say that you're playing and you want to improve, for example, at farming. You could set yourself a goal like, hey, I want to at least have, I don't know, 20,000 souls at 18 minutes or something, or I want to have at least 23,000 souls at 20 minutes. An objective like that. Now, I've coached a lot of people, and I know that having these small objectives really makes a huge difference. Reality is, if you hit that objective, even if you lose, if you switch your mind to caring about that objective, then at least you'll have some feeling of satisfaction and some feeling of fun, right? So that's obviously the most obvious one, is just like, oh, a souls per minute goal, or like, hey, I want to hit X souls, or hey, I want to be better at doing this. Now, of course, If you're trying to learn a new hero, for example, it's like, oh, I want to learn Pocket. That can be an objective in and of itself, right? But then you have to break it down into smaller objectives. And I'm sure this is advice all of you guys have received in your life, because this is kind of always told, is like, break it down into achievable goals, right? That are smaller kind of steps. So if you're trying to learn Pocket, okay, well, this game, I want to focus on just making sure that I hit good ultimates, right? This game, I want to focus on always using my cloak to escape. This game, I want to do this other thing. So kind of break it down. Another thing to focus on is just like new heroes, right? A lot of people are just kind of playing the same old heroes, and if that's what you enjoy, there's really nothing wrong with that. I want to reiterate, like, having fun is the most important thing. So if you enjoy playing Bebop for your 4,000th game, like bananas only, then there's nothing wrong with that, and you should keep doing that. But if you're like me and you need to be challenged, you need like a new challenge, and the current state of matchmaking and ranks is not giving you that challenge, then learning a new hero is a great way, right? So go out of your comfort zone, learn a hero that maybe you never thought you'd want to play, or something like that. Or with your hero, try some wild build ideas, right? A lot of people say there's no build diversity, or, oh, sorry, not no build diversity, but the build diversity has like gone diminished, etc. Well, get creative, right? Try something new, and maybe it's not going to be good, but I promise you that you'll probably have more fun just kind of like putting together an idea and trying to make it work than you will, just kind of like bashing your head against the wall, trying to win really hard and trying your heart out when, matchmaking is going to give you this kind of like random group of people with a random team composition, and there's so many factors outside of your control, right? So I'm not saying you should completely forget the idea of winning. Winning is still fun, and you should still play to win, but it should not be your primary goal in a session, in my opinion. I really do think that that'll help a lot of people just have fun with the game. Now, the second thing I want to kind of touch on is really the matchmaking itself and rank decay. So there's obviously a lot of issues with matchmaking, and I don't really aim to address all of them. And I think everybody kind of knows matchmaking is bad. Like, I'm sure even Valve knows matchmaking is bad. And the thing about Valve knowing matchmaking is bad is maybe they'll do something about it, right? We don't actually know. Like, maybe they'll do something, maybe they won't do anything. The reality is nobody knows what they're gonna do. And they have done some matchmaking changes in the past. They've done some, rank redistribution. In my opinion, I think that the number one factor right now is just the fact that like a lot of people decayed into Initiate, right? And so even if you were like, I don't know, let's say Ascendant or Phantom, some of those players have decayed all the way to Initiate 1 just because they didn't play for a long time. And as far as I'm aware, someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I don't actually think that there's a limit to how much you can decay. And that in and itself is a problem, right? Because the fact that like if you're a Phantom or Ascendant, I don't really think you should be able to decay to Initiate 1, because that's just like way too far compared to the skill level, right? And I understand that obviously it shouldn't put you back in Phantom Ascendant games right away if you come back from a 7 to 8 month break, but I think the decay right now is just like too aggressive, and there needs to be like a maximum amount of decay. Like, you probably shouldn't be able to decay more than 2 full ranks, right? Like, if I'm an Eternus player, I shouldn't be able to decay past Phantom, for example, right? Like, there's no world in which I should be an Oracle or lower rank, even if I don't play for a year. And maybe even in Phantom games in a year, an Eternus player would get owned, but it's better to get owned for a couple of games than it is to kind of like ruin low rank lobbies and just introduce a whole lot of randomness into a matchmaking algorithm. Now, my second issue is how long it takes people to rank back up, right? If people decay to Initiate 1, like let's say you were an Ascendant player, you decayed to Initiate 1, but then after that you won a couple games, and then every time you won a game you like ranked up really fast just because the system sees you winning games, it sees you doing well, and it ranks you up really, really fast, then that would be less of a problem, right? Because it would be like, oh, well, yeah, sure, it's a bit of an issue, but at the end of the day, you'll rank up, and within, let's say, 20 to 30 games, you'll probably be back at the rank where you belong. Unfortunately, that's not really the case. I've seen firsthand a lot of profiles of people that have won a decent amount, and they'll win a couple games, they'll rank up maybe one sub rank, and then they'll lose one game and they'll rank down again. And it just seems like this kind of like, it does seem like elo hell is real, to be honest. It does seem like elo hell is real, and I'm a big believer in elo hell not existing in most games, and I think Deadlock actually might be an exception right now, where they might have created this kind of like situation where it's not impossible to rank up. Like, I do think that if I was given one of these Initiate 1 accounts, I could make it back to Eternus, but Then again, maybe I'm just like, you know, overly optimistic or whatever, but I do believe that like if you're an Eterna 6 player, you'd be able to climb out of it. But the problem is, you know, there's very few Eterna 6 players, and if you're just like a above average player, the games just might be a little too hard to carry at times, and the games might just be a little bit too random where, hey, maybe if you're on the right side of luck, you might be the one that gets the players that were super decayed that shouldn't have been, and you might get the Mina that goes, you know, 25-1, but if you're on the wrong side of it, then maybe it might just be a little bit too much for you. And that's definitely like one of the big issues with matchmaking. So I wish that there was a limit to how much you could decay, and I wish that when you came back from a decayed with a decayed account, you would rank up much faster. Those are two changes that I think would be fairly easy to implement, that I do think that they should implement, even though I understand that the current rank system is kind of just like a placeholder, and you know, there's probably going to be a significant changes before open beta, but I do think that these changes would benefit a lot in the short term. Now, the last thing I want to touch on in this video about Deadlock being frustrating is the lack of draft. The lack of draft is something that a lot of people complain about very frequently in my streams, and I have mixed opinions about it. So let me explain. On one hand, I fully agree that draft, you know, needs to be in the game eventually. We only have 32 heroes, so does draft need to be in the game right now? Maybe not, but to be honest, would it really do much harm to put draft in the game right now? Probably not. I understand that they maybe want to gather data or whatever, but they could also just gather data through the picks and bans, right? Like, I think that that's data that's just as valuable, because they could see like, oh, this hero gets banned a lot, this hero gets picked a lot, maybe there's an issue, right? If they see a hero is banned every game, then they could be like, okay, well, either this hero is OP or people don't like playing against it, you know, whichever one it is. So I do think that it's valuable data in a different way, but I understand why they might not want to go with it. And then on the other hand, I'm also like, well, you know, if they added draft, it would be nice, but I don't think it would change that much. And I do still kind of stand by that statement, in the sense a lot of people kind of see draft as this, like, you know, holy grail, like, oh, it's gonna save the game. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but they're like, oh, draft is gonna make it so you don't get a composition where you have 4 carries on your team, right? And this happens actually like fairly often, where you'll just get like, let's say you just have Haze, Infernus, Wraith, 7 or something. It's like, okay, well, the game is, it's not over, but let's just say the odds are against you, right? And obviously when some heroes have very high win rates and other heroes low win rates, sometimes matchmaking just kind of screws you. My point with that thing is basically, I think that even if there was draft, I personally believe that a lot of people are just going to pick selfishly anyway. And is there anything wrong with that in like just a game that's for fun? Of course not. But I don't think draft is really going to solve that much. What draft will do is it will shift players' frustrations from Valve to other players. So right now, if you get a shit draft, you're angry at Valve, right? And you're like, we don't have draft. Why do I get 4 carries, etc., etc.? But if there was a draft system and your team drafted terrible picks, instead of being angry at Valve, you'd be angry at your teammates. And maybe it would feel like you have a little bit more agency, because you're like, well, it's not really Valve's fault, it's more my teammates' fault. And obviously it would mitigate some of the situations where you have a bad draft, right? Where maybe overall you would have bad drafts less often, but a lot of people would still be very selfish, and a lot of people just want to play their heroes, you know? This isn't like, a lot of things are trying to change with Deadlock, and we'll see kind of like what draft style they implement. I think it's inevitable that they'll implement one, but I doubt that we'll see something like super standard. I think that they might try to do something interesting with it as well. However, who knows? So with draft, essentially, I'm like, I don't think that I don't think it's really a big deal either way. They could implement it sooner rather than later if they wanted to try it. But, you know, we saw how that went with, like, ranked and stuff. So I think you have to be careful with these kind of features. I think, in retrospect, everybody kind of, like, agrees, like, hey, ranked was a mistake, you know? Like, sure, it gave people ranks, and, you know, it probably helped people, like, content creators like myself, kind of prove their authority in a way, because, you know, people like myself can say, hey, I'm a turn of 6, so you should listen to me. And if there was no rank, maybe we wouldn't be able to do that. But I trust that people would still be able to, you know good content and know, like, a person that knows what they're talking about versus someone that doesn't. But either way, I don't really think that draft will change a ton, but I do wish that Valve would make some changes to matchmaking. Now, if you guys have any other frustrations with the game or anything else, you know, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm generally a very, very optimistic channel about Deadlock, but I think it's also important to address the concerns of the community or the things that people are unhappy with. And I love Deadlock, right? I love Deadlock. I live and breathe Deadlock. Deadlock is my life. It's my job. It's everything. But you know, obviously there's a lot of reasons to be kind of frustrated right now, even though in some other ways the game is so incredible, right? I want to make sure that people don't think that this video is like an attack on Deadlock. Like, obviously I know the game's incredible, right? Like, the game is amazing, but there's just these things that are just a little bit frustrating that I wish, you know, Valve would spend a little bit of time on. And I feel like from my outside perspective, and I think from the community's perspective, these things don't feel like they would take an immense amount of work to kind of like make better, right? But I guess we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like I said, this video was not very edited. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.